Picture this. You're standing in the arena of your own life, and every day brings a barrage of challenges, setbacks, and provocations designed to knock you off balance. Your boss criticizes your work unfairly, traffic makes you late for an important meeting, your phone battery dies at the worst possible moment, or someone cuts in front of you in line. Your immediate impulse is to react, to let that surge of anger, frustration, or anxiety take control of your responses and dictate your next move. But what if I told you that the moment you stop reacting to life and start responding thoughtfully, everything changes? What if the secret to mastering your existence isn't about controlling what happens to you, but about controlling how you choose to engage with what happens to you? This isn't just modern self-help philosophy. This is ancient wisdom that has guided emperors, slaves, and philosophers through some of history's most turbulent times. Today you're going to discover how the timeless principles of Stoicism can transform your reactive patterns into purposeful responses, turning life's inevitable challenges from obstacles that defeat you into opportunities that strengthen you. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature. We suffer not because of what happens to us, but because of our judgments about what happens to us. When you master this distinction, when you truly grasp the power of choosing your response rather than being controlled by your reactions, you unlock a level of inner freedom and effectiveness that most people never experience. The story begins in ancient Rome, where a young slave named Epictetus was born into bondage, his body broken by the cruelty of his master, his leg permanently damaged from the chains that bound him. You might think that someone in such circumstances would have every reason to be bitter, reactive, and consumed by anger at the injustice of his situation. Instead, Epictetus discovered something that would revolutionize not just his own life, but the lives of countless others across centuries. He realized that while he could not control his external circumstances, he possessed absolute sovereignty over his internal responses. This insight didn't just free him mentally while his body remained enslaved, it eventually led to his physical freedom and his establishment as one of history's most influential philosophers. Epictetus taught that we have two fundamental choices in every moment. We can react automatically to our circumstances, allowing external events to dictate our internal state, or we can pause, reflect, and choose our response based on our values and wisdom rather than our immediate emotions. When you react, you're essentially handing over control of your life to whatever triggered you. Think about the last time you got angry in traffic. In that moment, you allowed a stranger's driving behavior to determine your emotional state, your stress levels, your blood pressure, and possibly even how you treated the next person you encountered. You gave a complete stranger the power to control your inner world. The Stoics saw this as a form of voluntary slavery, and they developed specific practices to break free from this reactive pattern. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire at its height, faced pressures that would crush most people. He dealt with plagues, wars, political conspiracies, and personal tragedies, yet his private journal, which we know as Meditations, reveals a man committed to responding to each challenge with wisdom rather than reacting with emotion. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This wasn't just philosophical theory for Marcus Aurelius, it was a daily practice that allowed him to lead effectively while maintaining his inner peace. Consider the practical implications of this shift, from reacting to responding in your own life. When you react, you're operating from your most primitive brain functions, the fight-or-flight responses that evolved to help our ancestors survive immediate physical threats. But most of the challenges you face today aren't saber-toothed tigers. They're complex situations that require thoughtful analysis and measured responses. When your colleague takes credit for your idea in a meeting, your reactive brain wants to either attack them directly or retreat in defeat. Neither response serves your long-term interests. A Stoic response would involve pausing to consider your options, perhaps documenting your contributions more carefully in the future, or having a private conversation with your colleague about proper attribution. The Stoic approach isn't passive, it's strategic. Seneca, the wealthy Roman philosopher and advisor to emperors, understood this principle deeply through his own experiences with political intrigue and personal loss. He was exiled by one emperor, recalled by another, and eventually forced to commit suicide by Nero. Throughout these extreme circumstances, He maintained his commitment to responding rather than reacting. In his letters to his friend Lucilius, Seneca wrote extensively about the practice of negative visualization, imagining loss or setback before it occurs so that when it actually happens, you're prepared to respond with equanimity rather than react with despair. This wasn't pessimistic thinking. It was practical preparation for life's inevitable challenges. The difference between reacting and responding might seem subtle, but it's the difference between being a victim of your circumstances and being the author of your life story. When you react, you're unconscious, automatic, driven by emotion and impulse. When you respond, you're conscious, deliberate, guided by your values and long-term thinking. Reactions happen to you. Responses come from you. This distinction becomes crucial when you face the kind of setbacks that define your character. Imagine losing a job that you thought was secure. Your reactive mind might spiral into panic, blame, or despair. You might lash out at your former employer, burn bridges with colleagues, or sink into depression. A Stoic response would involve accepting the reality of the situation without adding unnecessary emotional suffering, analyzing what lessons can be learned from the experience, and taking purposeful action toward your next opportunity. The ancient Stoics developed specific techniques for cultivating this responsive mindset, and these practices are just as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. One of the most powerful is the practice of the dichotomy of control, which Epictetus articulated with crystalline clarity. He taught his students to constantly ask themselves, is this something I can control or something I cannot control? Everything in your experience falls into one of these two categories, and your peace of mind depends on focusing your energy exclusively on what you can actually influence. You cannot control whether you get the promotion you want, but you can control the quality of your work and your attitude during the selection process. You cannot control whether your relationship partner loves you back, but you can control how authentically and kindly you express your own love. You cannot control whether you get sick, but you can control how you take care of your body and how you respond to illness when it comes. This principle transforms how you approach every challenge in your life. Instead of wasting emotional energy on things beyond your influence, you channel that energy into areas where you can actually make a difference. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, reminding himself that he could not control the actions of others, the outcome of battles, or even the length of his own life, but he could control his responses to each situation. This focus on what he could control allowed him to lead the Roman Empire effectively while maintaining his philosophical principles. When the Antonine Plague swept through the empire, killing millions of people, Marcus Aurelius didn't waste time lamenting the unfairness of the situation or blaming the gods. Instead, he focused on organizing relief efforts, maintaining morale, and governing with wisdom and compassion during an unprecedented crisis. The practice of morning reflection, which the Stoics called the view from above, offers another powerful tool for developing responsive rather than reactive patterns. Each morning, before the day's challenges begin, take a few minutes to visualize the day ahead from a broader perspective. Imagine yourself moving through your scheduled activities with calm purpose, responding to unexpected challenges with wisdom and grace. When that difficult conversation with your boss arrives, you're not caught off guard because you've already mentally rehearsed maintaining your composure and speaking from your values rather than your emotions. When the traffic jam threatens to make you late, you're prepared to use that time productively rather than letting frustration consume you. Evening reflection complements this morning practice beautifully. Each night, review the day's events with honest self-assessment. Where did you react unconsciously instead of responding wisely? What triggered you, and how can you prepare differently for similar situations in the future? This isn't about judging yourself harshly. It's about learning from your experiences and gradually building the mental habits that support responsive rather than reactive living. Seneca practiced this nightly review religiously, examining his thoughts, words, and actions with the goal of continuous improvement. He wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by." The Stoic concept of preferred indifference provides another crucial framework for developing non-reactive responses to life's ups and downs. The Stoics recognize that while some things are genuinely good, like wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline, and other things are genuinely bad, like ignorance, injustice, cowardice, and self-indulgence, most of what we worry about falls into a third category, things that are neither inherently good nor bad, but simply preferred or not preferred. Health is generally preferable to sickness, wealth to poverty, praise to criticism, but none of these external circumstances can actually harm your character or destroy your capacity for wisdom and virtue. This perspective liberates you from the emotional roller coaster that most people ride based on their external circumstances. Consider how this applies to your career. Getting promoted is a preferred indifferent. It's generally nice to have, but it doesn't make you a better person or guarantee your happiness. Being passed over for promotion is also a preferred indifferent. It's disappointing, but it doesn't diminish your worth or eliminate your opportunities for growth and contribution. When you truly understand this distinction, you can pursue career advancement without being attached to specific outcomes, and you can handle setbacks without being devastated by them. You can work diligently toward your goals while maintaining equanimity, regardless of whether you achieve them exactly as planned. The practice of memento mori, remembering death, might seem morbid to modern sensibilities, but the Stoics found it profoundly liberating. When you regularly contemplate the temporary nature of all things, including your own life, you gain perspective on what actually matters and what's worth getting upset about. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that he was mortal, that his reign would end, that all the political dramas and personal conflicts that seemed so important would eventually be forgotten. This didn't make him nihilistic or depressed. It made him more present, more grateful, and more focused on what truly mattered, living according to his principles and contributing positively to the world while he had the opportunity. Think about how this perspective might change your own reactive patterns. That argument with your family member that's consuming your thoughts, the workplace drama that's keeping you up at night, the financial worry that's creating constant anxiety. How do these concerns look when viewed from the perspective of your entire life, from the perspective of history? This doesn't mean these things don't matter at all, but it helps you respond to them with appropriate, rather than excessive, emotional intensity. You can address important issues without being overwhelmed by them, and you can let go of trivial concerns that don't deserve your precious mental energy. The Stoic virtue of courage takes on new meaning when you understand it as the courage to respond rather than react. It takes courage to pause when someone insults you instead of immediately defending yourself. It takes courage to remain calm when everyone around you is panicking. It takes courage to speak truth when it's unpopular, and it takes courage to remain silent when speaking would only escalate conflict unnecessarily. Cato the Younger demonstrated this kind of courage throughout his political career, consistently choosing to uphold his principles even when it cost him personally. When Julius Caesar offered him a prestigious position that would have required compromising his values, Cato refused, choosing integrity over advancement. When Caesar's forces eventually defeated the Republican cause that Cato had dedicated his life to defending, he chose death over submission, maintaining his principles to the very end. The practice of reframing, which the Stoics called turning obstacles into opportunities, transforms how you experience challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" when difficulties arise, ask, "How can this situation help me grow stronger, wiser, or more compassionate?" Every setback contains lessons. Every criticism contains potential insights. Every failure contains information about how to succeed differently next time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't just positive thinking. It's a practical approach to extracting value from every experience, even the painful ones. When you lose a friendship due to a misunderstanding, instead of reacting with anger or self-pity, you can respond by examining what role you played in the breakdown and how you can communicate more effectively in future relationships. When you face a health challenge, instead of reacting with despair or denial, you can respond by learning about your condition, making necessary lifestyle changes, and developing greater appreciation for the time and energy you do have. When you experience financial difficulties, instead of reacting with panic or blame, you can respond by creating a realistic budget, learning new skills that increase your earning potential, and discovering that you need less than you thought to be content. The Stoic understanding of emotions provides crucial insight into developing non-reactive patterns. The Stoics didn't advocate for suppressing emotions or becoming emotionally numb. Instead, they taught that emotions are judgments, and like all judgments, they can be examined, questioned, and if necessary, revised. When you feel angry, you're making a judgment that something shouldn't be the way it is. When you feel anxious, you're making a judgment that something bad might happen. When you feel disappointed, you're making a judgment that reality should match your expectations. These judgments might be accurate and helpful, or they might be distorted and counterproductive. The key is to examine them consciously rather than accepting them automatically. Seneca experienced this process personally when he was exiled to the island of Corsica. His initial reaction was despair and self-pity, but through philosophical reflection, he was able to reframe his experience as an opportunity for growth and learning. He used his time in exile to write some of his most important works and to deepen his understanding of Stoic principles. When he was eventually recalled to Rome, he had been transformed by the experience rather than broken by it. His letters from this period show how he learned to find meaning and purpose even in circumstances that initially seemed devastating. The practice of sympathia, understanding your connection to all of humanity, helps you respond to difficult people with wisdom rather than reacting with anger or judgment. When someone treats you poorly, instead of taking it personally and reacting defensively, you can recognize that their behavior probably stems from their own pain, fear, or misunderstanding. This doesn't mean you should accept abuse or fail to set appropriate boundaries, but it means you can respond from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself regularly that even his enemies were fellow human beings, struggling with their own challenges and limitations. The concept of the sage, the perfectly wise person who never reacts unconsciously, but always responds from wisdom, provides an inspiring goal, even though the Stoics acknowledged that none of us will achieve perfect wisdom in this lifetime. The sage represents what becomes possible when you fully master the art of responding rather than reacting. Imagine moving through your life with such inner stability that no external event could knock you off balance, such clarity that you always know the right thing to do, such compassion that you can help others without being drained by their problems, such courage that you can face any challenge without being paralyzed by fear. This isn't a fantasy, it's the natural result of consistently choosing response over reaction. As you begin to implement these Stoic practices in your daily life, you'll notice that your relationships improve because you're no longer reacting defensively to every comment or suggestion. Your work becomes more effective because you're focusing on solutions rather than problems, on what you can control rather than what you cannot. Your stress levels decrease because you're no longer fighting reality or wasting energy on things beyond your influence. Your sense of purpose deepens because you're living according to your values rather than being blown around by your emotions and circumstances. You begin to experience what the Stoics called ataraxia, a profound inner tranquility that comes from aligning your responses with wisdom rather than impulse. The transformation from reactive to responsive living doesn't happen overnight, and it requires consistent practice and patience with yourself as you learn new patterns. There will be days when you fall back into old reactive habits, when someone pushes your buttons and you respond automatically rather than thoughtfully. The Stoics understood this process of gradual improvement, and they emphasized progress over perfection. Each time you catch yourself reacting and choose to pause and respond instead, you're building the mental muscles that support wise living. Each time you apply the dichotomy of control to a challenging situation, you're strengthening your capacity for inner freedom. Each time you reframe an obstacle as an opportunity, you're developing the resilience that allows you to thrive regardless of circumstances. The ultimate promise of Stoicism isn't that your life will become free of challenges, setbacks, or difficulties. The promise is that you will develop the inner resources to meet whatever comes with wisdom, courage, and grace. You'll stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the conscious author of your responses. You'll discover that happiness doesn't depend on getting what you want, but on wanting what you have and responding wisely to what you encounter. You'll find that peace isn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of inner stability that remains unshaken regardless of external turbulence. This ancient wisdom has guided countless individuals through wars, plagues, personal tragedies, and political upheavals. It has helped slaves find inner freedom, emperors maintain their humanity, and ordinary people discover extraordinary resilience. The same principles that helped Marcus Aurelius lead an empire while maintaining his philosophical commitments can help you navigate your daily challenges with greater wisdom and effectiveness. The same insights that allowed Epictetus to find meaning and purpose despite physical bondage can help you break free from the mental chains of reactive living. The same practices that enabled Seneca to find growth in exile can help you transform your own setbacks into opportunities for development. Now it's your turn to put these timeless principles into practice. Start small with the next challenging situation you encounter. Instead of reacting immediately, pause and ask yourself what a wise response would look like. Consider what you can control and what you cannot. Think about how you can use this experience to become stronger, wiser, or more compassionate. Remember that every moment offers you the choice between reaction and response, between being controlled by your circumstances and taking conscious control of your participation in life. What will you choose? Will you continue to let external events dictate your internal state, or will you claim your birthright as a rational being capable of wisdom, courage, and inner freedom? The Stoics believed that this choice is the most important one you'll ever make, and they developed these practices to help you make it consistently and well. Your life is waiting for you to stop reacting to it and start responding to it with the full power of your conscious mind and noble heart. The arena of your existence is calling for you to step forward, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a warrior of wisdom, ready to meet whatever comes with grace, purpose, and unshakable inner strength. I'd love to hear about your own experiences with these Stoic principles. Have you noticed areas in your life where you tend to react rather than respond? What practices resonate most with you, and how do you plan to begin implementing them? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below, and let's build a community of people committed to living with greater wisdom and intentionality. Remember, the path from reactive to responsive living is one of the most important journeys you can undertake, and every step forward makes not just your own life better, but contributes to a wiser and more compassionate world for everyone.